Look guys, we found Mount Rushmore. So we're actually here to take a look at Ariel in the series of videos I'm doing, where I try to figure out how good these different lords and heroes introduced in the new DLC will be. And yeah, Ariel is an interesting one. She is a legendary hero, which means she's quite expensive. And also unique. I'm a bit surprised that she's not a lord, but I'm sure there's some campaign reasons for that. But of course it has implications for multiplayer as well. We're going to have to take into account while assessing how good she is. So she has a lot of abilities. I'm just putting her against an army of Skaven here. So we can use some of those abilities. The acorns of the... What is that? Of the Oak of Ages. Okay. That's like Awakening of the Wood on steroids, apparently. That was pretty good damage. Yeah. Could do a lot of magic damage. And armor piercing damage. Now, armored units and units with physical resistance are not often brought against the Wood Elves, because they have so much armor piercing and magic damage, so I'm not sure if, you know, this ability is really going to be super cost efficient all the time, but that was good damage, and there's usually some unit you can nuke with it. Of course, she has the berry wine as well. It's like a free regrowth. And the Dart of Doom. Let's see what that does. Can she shoot it while she's in melee? That's another question. Like she's trying. Okay, so it shoots a little dart, but I suppose it shouldn't be used on units like that. It seems you would want to target a single target with that. Okay. For her spells, yes, an old fan favorite, Dwellers Below. And of course she also has a Soul Stealer, so she can heal herself. And she can really nuke blobs with double spells. And she has Greater Arcane Conduit, so you could actually bring both of those spells and have the magic required to cast them. You couldn't cast them right after the other, because as you can see, together they cost more than 30 winds of magic, so it takes a little bit to get back up there. Not sure if we'll see Dwellers Below much. Okay, let's kill some more rats. Her kill counter is currently up to 99. Not bad. Not bad at all. And here she's gonna be charging into some more rats. He does count as a large entity. Unlike, well, actually, just like Orion. Skulking in the back there. Watching her do her thing. I could have placed that a little better. Of course, being large means anti-large will apply to her. But it also means she's not going to get knocked around too much. But looking at her, she is actually quite big. So the hitbox is probably not too big, but I could see her becoming a target for artillery and things like that. She does have very cool attack animations. Like she makes these vines come out of the ground. And she seems to be doing a very good job just fighting regular infantry. Which is interesting because Wood Elves, they don't have the best infantry even after dispatch. Or just ways of dealing with large masses of infantry. Unfortunately, because she's large, she will not do a great job fighting spearmen. Yeah, something like these cheap clan rats, why not? Okay, she's currently up to 136 kills. I wonder how many rats she'll be able to kill in the end. Keep in mind, she still has berry wine. And a whole lot of magic. She's not doing damage fast though. It seems every attack only kills like 1 or 2 rats. Does some hit point damage to others as well, but her splash attacks are definitely not too great. Yeah. Combat value seems to be quite low. But she is rather survivable. At least against just masses of units. Kinda like Morgar. You probably wouldn't like being compared to Morgar, but hey, what can you do? That was the berry wine. It is basically a regrowth, going to restore her vigor. Now, in an actual battle, she would probably use that on someone else, but she can use it on herself as well. But it's like a regrowth, which is never bad. Let's nuke some more rats. It would blob up on us. That would be very nice. Oh, let's see if the dart can hit this Warlock Master. Let's go. Yeah, it didn't do much damage, but considering you have 3 charges of that and it didn't seem like a direct hit, I would say that's still decent. And that did reduce his armor, or not his armor, that did reduce his weapon damage as well. And it doesn't say a duration. Okay, so it's actually 30 seconds, because that wasn't clear to me how long it would last. The weapon strength reduction, only 30 seconds. That's not... yeah, this guy is back up to regular weapon strength. Okay, so that's not too strong. But I suppose if you want to support an engagement of like Wild Riders or something, then it could work. Because engagements are pretty fast in this game. And for being by herself, she's actually surviving quite a lot. I know it's just clan rats and not even all of them attacking at the same time, but still. I figured when I saw her that she would be sort of like the Fey Enchantress of the Wood Elves, and the Fey Enchantress would definitely not survive this long by herself. What if you cast Dart of Doom on a unit that you're fighting? Just shoot it point blank. Okay, that was good. That was good. Large creature thing. Look at yourself, Mr. Skaven. So yeah, if she's fighting something and it's close to her and then she shoots the Dart of Doom, that was actually very good damage, I would say. Which is good because, as I said, Wood Elves, they tend to not be the greatest at winning infantry engagements or getting rid of large clusters of infantry. She could definitely do that. Yeah, she's of course also unbreakable, causes terror. Like a massive banshee. Somewhat. Once again, something she probably doesn't want to be compared to, but hey, what can you do? Time to get a Soul Stealer off. Soul Stealer, another great addition, I think, to the Wood Elf roster. When you play the game in its current state, there's usually this one big engagement that decides the game, and usually that engagement is a blob engagement. So if you can put something like Soul Stealer on that engagement, it's going to help you a lot. And of course, Soul Stealer on an expensive character like Ariel, great as well. She just keeps slowly killing rats. I mean, her auto attacks aren't the greatest, but you can't have everything. The armor piercing damage. It's actually not a bad division of normal damage and armor piercing damage, so I could see her doing some decent damage on more armor targets as well. Melee attack and melee defense, though, not the greatest. It's respectable. 40 is kind of on the low side. 50 is still respectable, especially for a caster character. But it's not, you know, massive. So she's going to reach her healing cap here. She is currently up to 337 kills. Okay. And the rats discovered Orion and they're attacking him. Well, so be it. You know, guys, I have 2 unbreakable characters here, so I think they might actually win. Which would be kind of insane, but who knows? I definitely like the design on Ariel. But we have some time, so let's already talk about her stats. So, Ariel, 30 armor, 20% physical resistance, so that's roughly equivalent to having 60 armor. It's not a whole lot, but of course physical resistance is better than armor. Unless you're facing magic damage. Unbreakable, 55 speed, that's actually massive. When I first saw her, I thought, okay, she's not going to be that good because she's going to slow down the rest of the army. But she can keep up with skirmishers, which I think is essential in a Wood Elf roster like this. So 40 melee attack, magic attacks, that doesn't... Well, it makes sense that she has it, but it's not something that really is a big plus for her, because you always have some magic damage, and as I said, people are just not going to bring units with physical resistance against Wood Elves much, because they are, I think, the faction with the most magic damage in the game. 50 melee defense, that's pretty decent. Weapon strength is pretty decent. So she's not a very strong character, but she's not a very weak character either. She can definitely fight infantry, as we can see. She's just not going to do a lot of damage to it, but her stats are more for her own protection, I would say. Let's kill some more rats. And I think everyone's about to die. See if we can get 500 kills. Let's go. If I really wanted to min-max, I would have fought in the water here. Because of course these small units get a penalty in the water, while the large unit, that is Ariel, doesn't. Ryan isn't doing too badly either. I like how she's creating waves. The attack animations are really cool. Yeah, we can already talk about the abilities as well. Berry Wine, definitely good. Acorns of the Oak of Ages, pretty good as well. Good explosion. So she can go up to 3 different abilities that can all be used to nuke big blob fight. And the Dart of Doom, as we saw, if you shoot it point blank at stuff, the damage is quite good. So she's fighting something, she shoots the dart point blank, reduces the weapon damage. And there she goes. She actually died, guys. Rip Ariel. She did a good job. And it looks rather ghastly with the rock sort of clipping through her face and wings. Lorian Adventure. Well, it doesn't really matter. Let's take a look at the cost of all these abilities. Because, yeah, the cost is definitely something we need to talk about. Because I can say, oh, this is great, and this is great, and this is great. But Ariel, she's an expensive hero in a roster that doesn't really have cheap units. If you look at the roster, the cheapest unit is Eternal Guard at 475. And while more elite armies are definitely a thing in this game, sometimes most competitive armies have a base of just cheap, expendable infantry, which is one of the reasons Bretonia, for example, is so good. So how could we make a competitive setup with Ariel? Naturally, the first thing you're going to want to do is select or unselect certain spells. Tempest is one you could definitely bring, but most of the time I think you're not going to be too scared of enemy air, but it is a useful spell to have on her. Then Word of Pain, that is a good spell as well, but most of the time when playing with Ariel, I think you're going to be looking at some sort of setup like this, at least for the spells, where you take the Soul Stealer to healer and to nuke those important engagements. where you take Apotheosis, just, you know, to have some extra healing on her or other single entities. Or even multi-entity units. Mostly single entities. And then the Shield of Thorns is also good to support the blob fight, which is almost definitely going to happen, I think, or what you should go for if you bring Ariel. So Berry Wine, definitely something you're gonna want. Acorns of the Dark Ages, or of the Dark Ages, of the Oak of Ages. It seemed pretty good, so it's something I would keep on her for sure. And the Dart of Doom seemed pretty good as well. So really, I would bring all of this stuff. Well, I would want to bring all of this stuff, let's put it that way. But of course, the downside is that if you bring all that stuff that you want, you have a hero who costs 2,465 gold, which for a lord would be acceptable, because some Wood Elf lords even go up to that cost. But for a hero, it's kind of hard to justify, especially when you don't have a very cheap alternative. One thing we might see is the Wood Elf version of the hero blob, but one reason I think that's not going to be super likely is because they don't really have auras. They have some auras that they could put in a blob to make like a strong hero blob of their own, and of course Ariel has multiple ways of nuking a blob, but I just don't feel like it's going to be as effective as other things we've seen that, you know, use that sort of hero blob, and it could just get ignored. But how could you use her? Well, I think if you want to go for her, you probably want to make her a bit cheaper. Like, got some non-essential things. Like, for example, Life Bloom, Patience Protection. I do think these abilities are quite good. But yeah, she's basically always, no matter what you bring, going to cost upwards of 2k. So maybe you go for Orion and go for that sort of hero blob where you just make a strong blob, try to push through everything very quickly. Or instead of doing that, you try to go for a cheaper lord who was sort of there or as a support character, like a Glade Lord on a horse, and then you still have almost 9,000 gold left. You have a lord with good utility on a horse who's not going to die too easily. You have your terror unit already, so no need for a dragon. And you have the Prey of Anatrema, so great utility. And another thing is, Prey of Anatrema, potentially Dwellers Below. Can you see where I'm going with this? I bet you can. So instead of nuking stuff with bows, you could nuke it with the Prey of Anatrema and then put Dwellers Below on that. Or Soul Stealer. Or Acorns of the Oak of Ages. I almost said Dark Ages again. Or Dart of Doom. So definitely some good synergy between the Glade Lord with the Prey of Anatrema and all of these different abilities that Ariel could use to nuke stuff. So I think you're gonna see her either in sort of a rush build with Orion, where she's part of, you know, a strong blob that tries to push through everything, or go for that more subtle approach with the Glade Lord, where you use her in combination with the Prey of Anatrema to really nuke some units and gain an advantage like that. Then, in terms of other units she could synergize with, well, I think important thing, as I mentioned earlier, is their speed. You see these guys, they have 38 speed. See the Way Watchers, they have 40 speed, so she can perfectly be part of a rush, another rush build. Well, she can be part of a rush build, but she can be part of a guiding build as well, because she can easily keep up with these Way Watchers and Deepwood Scouts. And I think she's a beefy enough character to go in and sort of block units that are trying to get for them, get to them, not for extended periods of time, but definitely for short periods of time. Because as we saw, she doesn't die too quickly or too easily. Of course, if she gets charged by Karl Franz or something, she's going to die pretty quickly. But I think, unlike most casters, you're at liberty of just using it as sort of a blocking unit against infantry and other low tier troops as well. And of course, Acorns of the Oak of Ages, I said it right that time, is really good as well, because you basically get Awakening of the Wood without having, or 2 charges of it anyway, without having to pay for it. And in addition to, or without having to bring a cast through has it, of course you do have to pay for it, 150 gold. We saw the damage it did there. Even if you blow up half of some cheap chaff unit, that's already 150 gold. And the minus 48% speed can really help in a kiting build. So I think this sort of setup, you go from here and you take the rest of your kiting army, is a way to use Ariel. The rush build, you could go for, would use Orion, I believe. And in that case, I believe you would go for this kind of setup, which leaves you with about 8,000 gold to make the rest of your army. It's a lot into a Lord and Hero, but you can still get an army with this. Yeah, I think those are 2 options. I do think Ariel is going to be a bit tricky to use, especially at first, because you have so many abilities and you need to pay attention to when you use them and what you use them on. So it's gonna take some practice, but I think she has potential. I don't think we're going to see her that much, because people are just going to think, oh man, I can't afford an army. You have all these new units like the Zotes and the Great Stags that and the Lost Sylvan Knights here, who we'll talk about later as well, that people are just going to want to use. And generally they want their terror unit to be in the air and, you know, be more mobile. So I think people are going to go for that more. But I think Ariel has potential even as a hero, even though I would have expected her as a Lord, but as a hero is going to have potential. And I need to apply a score, and this may seem a little high, but I'm actually going to give her an 8 out of 10. I think she's going to be pretty strong once people figure out how to use her. Maybe this video can help people with that. So, who are we going to look at next? The next video will be about the Spellweaver, or specifically the Spellweaver of Dark, because that's a new lore for the Wood Elves that we're going to talk about in depth. How it's going to be useful or not useful for the Wood Elf roster, what possible tactics can be used. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe for more content. See ya.